Welcome, friends. My name is Silas Ollegario, and I'm the host of Think Onward, a podcast about books, studies, productivity, and lifestyle. Now, after the intro. Hello, everyone. How you guys doing? Thank you so much for tuning in again, even after I failed to keep my consistency here. I love talking about consistency, but, I wasn't able to fulfill the things that I myself talk about here. And because this is a journey, right? This is the journey we all go through. It is difficult to start doing things and actually continue doing things when these things are not officially your job, or you don't make anything out of it. They make something from the podcast and from the YouTube videos that I have is just the pleasure of doing something and putting myself out there, even though I'm not an expert, I'm not a specialist in any sort of way. But take all the subjects that I talk about, and I'm not a specialist in anything. Some things maybe I know a little bit more, like drums, but some other things I have no idea. It's just my opinion based on something that I read, but I actually love about that's what I love about having my own podcast. I get to speak about what I want, and having my YouTube channel. In case you don't follow me on YouTube, just go type Silas Ollegario with 2 L's, and I post videos every week. At least that's the idea, and I've been posting this podcast out there as well. I haven't said this to anyone. I changed the day. Maybe you noticed. I changed the day I post my YouTube videos, like drums and about books or something related to productivity and etc. I used to post on Saturdays, but I decided to post on Sundays. I'm sorry, I made a mistake. On Mondays. So the last maybe 3 videos I posted on Monday. And for me, because of the schedule I have in my house with my wife, it actually works better for me. And that's what I've been doing. And yes, for today's episode, listening back to a couple of episodes ago here on podcast, I decided to do something like I was talking to someone, when you have that unscripted thing. But when you're talking by yourself, when you don't have a guest, when it's not a conversation per se, it's kind of difficult not to repeat yourself unless you write something down. And that's what I did. I went back to the basics, wrote a script. I did not have that fancy camera when I can put like the characters, and then I can read from the camera and everything will be smooth. I just use my laptop here, and in case you're watching this on YouTube, I'm so sorry I'm not going to be looking at the camera all the time. I'm going to be here staring at my computer because I wrote down the things that I want to say, because I want to be straight to the point. I don't want to be repeating myself all the time. When you're talking without a script, that's what happens most of the time. At least that's what happens with me. But anyway, I hope you guys are doing great. I hope you guys are happy. I'm also hoping here that you're excited about today's episode, because it is one thing I've been waiting for quite some time to cover here with you. But again, before I go any further, remember to, in case you're watching this on YouTube, remember to like this video and subscribe to my channel, and maybe drop a comment down below, and if you're just listening this on your iPhone or on Spotify, if it's possible for you to write a review, maybe a positive review would be great. Okay, so I want to have this idea that we are growing this community. Every week that I post, I do have a little bit more of listeners, and we have listeners from all over the world. Most of our listeners are in Brazil, which is the country I reside. Because every time you start something like this, basically your family and your friends. They are the first ones to give you some sort of push, you know. But we have people listening from Canada and US and France and Japan, Australia, and all over the place. And I just found that got listeners from Indonesia, and that's awesome. I just love that. Never been there, but I will in the future. Amen. I do have my cup of tea here, so in case I stop, it's because I stopped to take a little sip of my tea. It's now 9:27 p.m. on a Wednesday. This is the date I'm recording. This is also the day I am posting this episode, okay? Very good tea. I have been trying to drink and have more tea. Like, not every day, but most of the days I've been trying to have some tea before I go to bed, and it's helping me sleeping better. And anyway, I said, I remember where I stopped. I said that I was asking you guys to like this video and drop a comment and this kind of stuff. And I always feel weird while doing this, because it's kind of weird when you asking people to do you a favor, but people have, what do you guys win from this? If I was a big YouTuber, maybe, you can get like 10% on this subscription for that, and this podcast is sponsored by Nebula, or is sponsored by Curiosity Stream, but it's not the case. Nobody knows me. 149 subscribers on YouTube, and maybe a couple 200 views every week here on my podcast. I cannot offer you guys anything, but I know you understand that. I know this is you. I know that you guys know this is the beginning, and that's how it is actually supposed to go, I guess. But anyway, let's go. As you probably know by now, and of course, in case you've been here before, I've started my journey to become a doctor in Canada. But this is still something that will take years, because there are still 2 years. I have still 2 more years of pre-med and other 3 of medical school before I can finally become a doctor. And this podcast is the one place I use as a tool for sharing details of my life like this, of my present and of my future, alongside with some other passions that I have. And you guys know by the title, by the beginning, the opening of this podcast, we like to talk about studies, books, and productivity. But we also like to talk about music, and I like having people over, although it's been months since our last guest, but this is about to change, hopefully soon. And one of the things I enjoy a lot is watching good movies. I believe like the majority of people, yeah. But I also like to watch nice TV series. And I do have a previous video. It's a video with the podcast. Maybe it was my first podcast video here on YouTube. And from several weeks ago, where I suggested some of the things I've been watching lately. And in today's episode, I'll be referring to a single TV series, the one that got me interested in medicine. No, I'm not talking about Grey's Anatomy. I'm talking about a TV series that I watched for the first time over 20 years ago, maybe 22, 23 years ago. Today I'll be talking about ER. ER premiered on NBC on September 19th, 1994. And it lasted for 15 seasons. Undeniable success. I think we can all agree to that. Anthony Edwards, George Clooney, Noah Wiley. These were some of the names we all know today who got famous as characters from ER. These actors portrayed characters on ER and was a boom in their careers. And there are a couple of things that might be able to help us understand why this medical drama was so successful. and I will argue it still is, because even though they stopped recording in 2009, yes, I believe it was 2009, ER is so incredibly famous, so incredibly big until today. For people who are in medicine already, people who are going to medicine. I know when we talk to people that have nothing to do with the medical field, they always think that Grey's Anatomy is a big show, and it is a big show, but it has nothing. No, this is wrong. Has little to do with the reality of a hospital. And of course, I'm not a doctor yet, but after talking to a friend who is a surgeon in Brazil, and also after watching a reaction video on Dr. Mike's YouTube channel, where he watches episode 1, season 1 of ER, I kind of understand one of the reasons for the series' success. It's realistic. When you watch Grey's Anatomy, it's a lot of drama, of course, but it's a lot of sex, and it's a lot of relationship. They focus a lot on the relationship between doctors and other doctors and this kind of stuff. And I know it's fun. I know it's interesting to see this kind of stuff, but also the medical part have so many things that are not realistic. So many things happen on Grey's Anatomy, even House MD, that have nothing to do with the reality of hospitals, And as this friend of mine, a surgeon, and Dr. Mike from YouTube said, ER wins like hands down the most realistic medical drama that was ever made. And of course, I don't intend to say what happens throughout the entire series, and it's 15 years on air. But I do want to explain to you, in case you haven't watched yet, how it is set and what's the idea behind a drama series in the emergency room department in the city of Chicago. Just a parenthesis before I actually start. ER was written by Michael Crichton. Michael Crichton is one of my favorite authors. Just so you have an idea, he wrote the movie Twister. He wrote Jurassic Park. And so you guys can have an idea, and he was a doctor, so you guys can have the idea of the kind of series you can expect from a guy who wrote Jurassic Park. Of course, there are no dinosaurs or monsters invading Chicago, nothing like that. But I mean, it's so well written and it's so well produced that it's, if you haven't, please go watch it. I'm going to talk a little bit about the TV series, and maybe I can get you interested in watching a medical drama that is not Grey's Anatomy, okay? Well, this particular ER emergency room of the series is set in Chicago, one of the biggest cities in North America. The hospital is County General, a public hospital, because different than Canada, where all hospitals are sort of subsidized by the government. In the U.S., there are many private hospitals. Because this is a county general hospital, it receives every single person in need, with or without insurance. And it is also a level 1 trauma, which means that the emergency department is the most capable of dealing with chaos and difficult, hard MVAs, which stands for motor vehicle accidents, and GSWs, gunshot wounds. And as a hospital, it has all kinds of specialists, of course, but the show focuses on the ER. And the ERs, every emergency room they have desk clerks, PAs, physician assistants, doctors and nurses, and of course medical students. Attending physicians, third and second and first year residents, third and fourth year medical students, all trying to work together so every single patient receives the best care possible, considering It's a big city. It's a public hospital, and it's a very busy hospital. Dr. Green, portrayed by actor Anthony Edwards. He's in season one. I'm gonna talk about episode one, season one. Okay, just give you an idea. I'm not gonna tell the story or the plot, nothing like this. But Dr. Green, Anthony Edwards, he's a third year chief resident, responsible for the ER as chief residents are, and all the other residents. Dr. Lewis, Dr. Susan Lewis, portrayed by Sherry Stringfield. She's a second year resident who goes through a rough time for being a beautiful woman dealing with stupid patients trying to hit on her on a daily basis. You have to remember this is in 1994. So many things that we pay attention to today, we didn't use to pay attention 30 years ago. So she has to handle sexism as women have to do it today, but you have to think about this. 30 years ago was even worse. Was even worse. Yeah. Dr. Benton, Eric LaSalle, he's a second-year surgical resident who is extremely smart and tenacious, but has a big attitude problem. Dr. Peter Benton, he's very smart. He's very capable. He doesn't like to sleep. He likes to work all the time. He wants to be the best surgeon in the world. That's how he acts. And he's not the best surgeon in the world, of course. He's a second-year resident. But people actually respect him and the fact that he's very serious and he thinks about work all the time. Dr. Doug Ross, portrayed by George Clooney. Remember, ER was the first big thing of George Clooney. Before that, he was a big nobody. And he's a second-year pediatric emergency resident, actually. And his character, he worries and he cares so much about his young patients, because he's responsible for kids. And around 25% of patients who go to the ER, they are already kids. They are kids. And so it's a big portion of people who go to emergency rooms. And he cares so much about them that sometimes he forgets about his career, and he forgets that you have a lot at stake when you're taking care of people, especially when you take care of or taking care of young people, because you have to deal with the parents and people and kids being mistreated, and people not liking their kids or worrying so much about work. The kids are neglected, and he gets mad with this. And then we have Nurse Hathaway, Kara Hathaway, portrayed by Juliana. I think her name is Juliana Margulies. I don't know if it's Margulies. She's the actress. Nowadays, she's in that TV series, very famous. It's called The Good Wife. But back in 1994, she was Nurse Hathaway. She's the charge nurse. Charge nurse is the nurse responsible for all the other nurses. And in episode 1, she's going through a very rough time, dealing with depression, and actually they are saving her because she went through a suicide attempt. And then my favorite character is the one that I relate a lot with, John Carter, played by Noah Wiley. He's a 30-year medical student who hopes to be a surgeon, even though it is so obvious for everyone that he cares too much about some details to be a surgeon. We all know he's a better fit for the ER, but he still wants to be a surgeon. He comes from a very wealthy family, and like his folks want him to be a surgeon because now that he got into medicine, well, now if you're going to be a doctor, at least you have to be a surgeon, right? But as it turns out, we all know that in the future he's not going to be a surgeon, and he's going to be an ER doc. He was supposed to be a second character, but he ended up being the main character for the entire season, for the entire TV series. He's the one character, and this I can say, he's the one character who appears in episode 1 and the last episode finale. Obviously, so many other characters are part of this TV show, considering it was 15 years. But these are the ones whose stories will be able to follow closely along the years, not for the entire series. Of course, in different seasons, more characters arrive. Some of the original ones leave. Some leave just for a period of time. Some others leave for forever. A few arrive that make us fall in love even more for the TV show and for them. There's one in particular. I think she comes to the ER in season 3. Abigail Lockhart. She's a nurse, but she's also a medical student. Then she becomes a doctor, but she works as a nurse because she needs to pay for medical school, and she becomes my favorite character. She goes through some serious, dark stuff, and this TV show made me fall in love with the idea of working in a hospital. And in case you love the idea of being a doctor, or you like this kind of trauma environment, emergency, this is the show for you. On every single episode, there's a huge trauma where we can learn about the medical procedures, the way a patient needs to be treated and stabilized before being sent out to surgery, where the surgeons take all the glory and praise for saving the patient. But the reason I decided to talk about this today is because back when I'm 32 years old today, and back when I was 10, I came across with ER for the very first time. It was 1997, 98. I already wanted to be a doctor. I used to talk to my mom about becoming a doctor, but only to my mom. But because I am from a city where black people like me are only 4% of the population, I never thought as a kid that I could be a doctor. It is very difficult, and I understand today, we all understand today, how important it is for kids to have a role model that looks like them. I remember this is something, I never played with dolls, but I've never had a Barbie. But I remember having, for the past 2 or 3 years, people complaining about Barbies because Barbies they all have blue eyes and they're blonde. And black or Asian kids who like playing with Barbies, they don't feel like they can play like the mother of the Barbie because they don't look like the Barbie. So it happened the same thing 20 years ago. I remember my father, he had some very successful people, successful friends, and he even had some friends who were doctors, but none of them were black. And ER helped me with this, even though it was a drama series on TV, set in a different country, watching Dr. Peter Benton, Eric Laseo, who is a black actor, and watching him being excellent, being an excellent resident, who he was, and all the other black doctors that we see throughout the series, that we will eventually come along with this. For me, it was life-changing, watching this. That was the way ER changed the way I felt about medicine. It made me feel like it was possible for me to become a doctor. I remember that watching this and only loving for my friends. Okay, I used to love because of medical drama on TV. Okay, you can watch police shows and not necessarily wanting to be a policeman. You can watch Friends and not necessarily be living in New York. Want to live in New York, And I remember that, oh my God, maybe I can be a doctor. Maybe I can even be a doctor in the United States. Maybe if I started studying English, maybe if I learn English, maybe in the future I can go, you know, the 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 place I have in my heart for ER is absolutely gigantic. I can say it changed the way used the way I saw my future, you know, especially when I was young. And well, that was it about ER, this great TV show that changed my life. And it is still causing a lot of impact on my way to see the future as an emergency doctor, because that's where I want to be. But before I wrap this up, this podcast, this episode, this video, I'd like to give you guys an announcement. This next Monday will be the day I will officially start reading the Game of Thrones book series I have here. Yeah. As you guys already know from previous episodes, I've already read the 5 main books of Song of Ice and Fire. I read all the 5 books, and I hope to read Fire and Blood and A World of Ice and Fire, which are the newest books who help complement the series before the new ones are released. Winds of Winter and A Dream of Spring. And I hope to start this as a new series, and I'm gonna read these books. I'm probably not gonna read any other book until the end of the year. This is book 1, A Game of Thrones. The next book's A Clash of Kings. But I'm starting next Monday. I'm a big believer of creating accountability, and this is the place for me to do so. Today is Wednesday, October 27th. So on Monday, November 1st, book 1 of the series will be my go-to reading for the next week. So let's see how... I already did the math, and I have a podcast about this, how many hours, how many minutes, how many pages there are over the entire series. I'll try to create some sort of comparison between the biggest differences between book and the TV show. Not to say, this is better here. No, I don't believe this kind of stuff. Books and TV, books and movies, they are different expressions of art. I don't think you can compare them in this way, that this is better than that. It's like saying that this car is better than that motorcycle. This bicycle is better than those skateboards. You know, you have to compare cars with cars, bicycles with bicycles, movies with movies, books with books. So maybe I can say that this book 1 is better than book 2, which I don't believe it is. I don't actually think it is. The only thing that out of the 5 books that I know already, that book 4, A Fit for Crows, is my favorite book of the series. But I'm going to read it again so I can confirm this this information. I'm never going to try to diminish when I create this comparison. I'm never going to try to diminish the story or the producers, this kind of, or HBO or whatever it is, or people who haven't read the books because they decided to watch the TV show. So makes no difference. I'm gonna have to read. No, some people don't like that. But just in case you've watched the TV series and has no interest in reading the books, you can come here and get these main differences. So maybe you can get a bigger understanding on how things are developing and why these things are happening. You know, as for my wife, she has never watched it. She's watched the TV series, the entire season, the entire series twice, but she has never read the books. And sometimes I kind of explain to her the differences, you know, between this character and that character. And that's what I hope to do here with you guys. So that's it. This is me talking about ER. This is me talking about accountability, creating some sort of accountability. And this is me promising that I'm going to be here back again, not every other week, but every single week with a new episode, with a new video, so we can continue this journey together, okay? I hope you guys have a great week, great weekend, and see you again on Monday on YouTube but also here on my podcast next Wednesday, okay? Bye-bye.